counselors at the elementary schools, myself, Lee Franz, I'm at Smith. Amanda Peterson, she is at Poston, and then Julie Warren, she is at South. Wanting to get together with the parents and have a workshop where we can help you guys interact with your students in a way that they can be successful at our schools, and that will help our schools be better involved in the community and vice versa. So this is our first one. We want to do one on parent involvement and student success because we feel like it's really important for parents to know kind of what's going on at school, and then for us to know what's going on at home, and having both of those team up together for the students. So we are going, well, first I have a video for you. Kind of summarizes basically what we're going to talk about in a video. That's 2 minutes, but then we'll go more in depth in what we're going to talk about. So today we will go over a few different things. I'm going to start out, I'm going to talk about the research behind what psychologists and doctors have seen with parent involvement in students and how it changes their experience at school. Amanda's going to go over different parenting styles, how that can affect student success. We're also going to go over how you can get involved. Julie's going to talk about different strategies to use with students. And then we'll also talk about skills for connecting with your students, and in your packet there's a couple different things that you can use at home. So the research, the fun part. So there's been a ton of research done with parents and students. Obviously professionals see that there's a big connection between parent involvement at home and the success they have. In the video you can see it leads to tons of different things. Some factors that affect learning are structure, so how consistent is parenting and schooling, stability, motivation, does the student have motivation, is the parent instilling motivation into them, attention, a student's attention can be very altered by how much emphasis or how much involvement their parent has with them in their schooling, and then also the student's confidence in their own work. And research says that parent involvement can lead to higher grades, you saw that in the video. Also better attendance, which is something that we've really been pushing this year. And also just stronger parent-child relationships. It really begins the communication of what's going on in the parent's life and what's going on in the child's life. The children spend 8 hours with us at school, so the parent being involved in those 8 hours by just asking questions and getting to know what's going on is really important. Students whose parents are involved, like I said before, can be more confident. They're less likely to drop out of school when they're older, and they're more motivated to seek higher and further education as they get older. And it can also increase developmental skills like their language and reading. There's been studies that have seen reading and language development starts earlier with students whose parents are involved and active in their learning at home. Oh, okay, well there you go. So you can use those strategies to try to put them in situations where they want to learn and things that they think are interesting. It can create more concrete social skills, so as they interact with their parents in terms of their schooling, they're learning how to interact with others. It can also, like I said before, strengthen that bond between the parent and child. Your turn.
Okay, my turn?
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit about parenting style, kind of the different styles of parenting and the correlation between student success. So psychology recognizes four main parenting styles, all listed below. They're all based on two variables, control and warmth. So just remember that every parent-child relationship is different. There's not going to be a one-size-fits-all model to be the perfect parent, because you guys all know your children best. But the four different types we'll talk about: authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and neglectful. So here you can kind of see how those two variables come into play. On the vertical axis, we see control. So authoritative and authoritarian are based on high control parenting styles, whereas permissive and uninvolved are more low control parenting styles. On the horizontal axis, you'll notice warmth. So two of our parenting styles are high in warmth, two of the parenting styles are low in warmth, and warmth kind of refers to responsiveness, caring, that type of thing. So authoritative is the high control, high warmth parenting style. So they set those boundaries, they have clear rules, they expect highly of their children, but they're also very warm and responsive, supportive, they value a child's independence. So they kind of have that balance of being a parent, being there with those guidelines, but also providing a warm, nurturing environment. This is associated with higher academic performance, higher self-esteem, better social skills, less mental illness, and lower delinquency. Authoritarian is kind of similar, but to the name. This one is high control and low warmth, so they are very, they just have very strict rules, very high expectations, and it's kind of the parents that say, it's my way or the highway, you will listen to me because I'm the parent. There's not a lot of warmth there. They just expect a child to blindly obey, no questions asked. The associated outcomes with this parenting style are lower academic performance, less self-esteem, poorer social skills, mental illness, drug and alcohol abuse, and delinquency. But just don't let that scare you with, the drug abuse and all that, because parenting style is not, the cause of those types of things. They're just strongly linked, so don't get that confused. So permissive has low control and very high warmth. So these are parents who just want to give everything to their children without many expectations or rules or boundaries. So they're very warm and responsive, they're indulgent, they're very lenient, but when it comes to setting up those rules, there might not be very many in place. So the outcomes with these students are more impulsive behavior, egocentric, so thinking that everything is about them and that they're the most important. Poor social skills, and just kind of a problematic relationship between the adult and the child. Lastly, neglectful, low control, and low warmth. So they are not very responsive to the child, they are uninvolved, very cold, no rules, indifferent to what the child is doing, no boundaries. The outcomes is impulsive behavior, delinquency, drug and alcohol abuse, and these students will have a higher risk of suicide. So once again, it's not a cause, but it is definitely correlated when you have that neglectful parenting style. So just some examples. A child asks to go play with his friend at his house Friday night. His parent replies with no. When the child asks why, they reply with, because I said so, you will follow my rules with no questions asked. So think about what type of parenting style that would be when they say no, no questions asked. The answer is authoritarian, so that low warmth, very high control parenting style. Another example, a child comes home from school and immediately heads to her room to do whatever she feels. When she asks if she can go outside, the parent replies, yeah, whatever. The parent does not supervise or put any type of rules on the child who is playing outside. She comes in at 11 p.m. and gets herself ready for bed. So when you kind of think about what kind of parenting style that is, it would be neglectful. So they are not doing any type of supervision. They are just letting the child do what they want. They say, I don't care, you go outside, you go do this. That's neglectful. A parent lets his child have ice cream and brownies for dinner. The child goes up to his room to play video games for 3 hours straight. Before asking his parents to take him to a movie, the parent replies, of course I'll take you to a movie. So when we think of that kind of parent who is very responsive and warm, but doesn't have those boundaries, we would call that permissive parenting. Yes. A child asks to go bowling with her friends later in the evening. The parent allows it after making sure that the child has finished homework and made her bed first. So with this type of parenting style, you see the guidelines are set, and they also allow that reward at the end. That's what we would call authoritative parenting. So making sure your child still has fun while getting everything done that needs to be done. All right, so how can you get involved? Communication is key. We always preach this as one of the most important things that you can do for your child. It's important to just have those daily conversations, whether it's before they go to bed, on the way to school, at the dinner table. Talk about how their day went, see how things are going, and we'll go over some phrases that you can use just to have those and use them as you need. So here's some phrases. I understand that every parent-child relationship is different. So some parents might have trouble talking to their kids because the kids are very closed. They don't want to talk. They are just kind of off to themselves. A lot of parents will have those children who are really open. They want to talk about everything. That's great too. So these are straight from Counseling 101. Ask for clarification. So when a child's talking, say, help me understand what you meant when you said this. Validate. So you say, you have every right to feel this way. Let them know that their feelings are very valid for what they're feeling. Speak encouragingly. Tell me more, and can you describe that for me? Letting them continue on and encourage them to speak more. Summarize. If I understood you correctly, you said. This one's important because they want to make sure that we're listening, so we got to show them that we did hear what they say, we do care about what they're saying, and here's how we know. Restate points, so tell me if I heard you right. Just avoid preaching guilt and jumping to conclusions. And just remember that children retain shorter messages longer, so be very brief. There's no need to give them a very long lecture. Just give them a point that they'll understand and that they can take away from your conversation. And just remember that every child is different, and you know your child best, so some of these might work for you, some of them might not work for you. It really just depends on you and your child's relationship.
You never asked Reagan to help me to understand what you meant. You just said, what?
What do you mean? Just some other factors to consider when going to talk to your child is their body language. So just kind of recognize their facial expressions, and that helps you kind of gauge what they're understanding from your conversation. Their tone of voice, their eye contact. Sometimes that'll let you know that they are not wanting to talk in that moment, and that's okay to just give them their space. Also, be aware of your body language.
As long as they don't roll their eyes.
Oh, the eyes are the biggest part you will learn. And also your body language, so keep an open posture rather than standing here with your arms closed. Open-ended and closed questions. It's really helpful to ask them open questions. So instead of, did you have a good day at school today? Yes. Ask them, okay, what's one thing in science that you did today that you didn't know before? So allowing an open question will elicit a bigger response. Time of day matters, location of conversation matters, circumstances. So if there was a family death or a sad event that happened versus getting a new puppy, talking to your kid, there's different circumstances you'll speak to your kid under. So just remember that. And many, many more. All of these play a role in the conversations that we have.
Okay, so this portion of getting involved comes more from the counseling standpoint. Obviously, we can get involved in the PTO and different things that the school is doing to be more involved in their schoolwork.
However, what we see a lot as counselors is dealing with emotions and learning how to cope with the stresses of life, especially, with school being much more stressful for kids nowadays. So, I don't know how many times a day I say this, but emotions are not wrong. It's what we do with them that's the important part. So it's okay for them to feel angry, it's okay for them to feel sad, but it's how we portray that that's the important part. So, as adults, when someone says, get it together, we know what that means, but when you tell that to a kid, they're like, I don't understand what you're saying to me. So we have to teach them, these things, just like we would teach them anything else. So the first thing is we have to be able to identify emotions, and a lot of, we work with kids K through 4, and a lot of kindergartners can tell me that they're happy, but they can't tell me any other emotion that they've experienced. So with the little kids, go ahead, we work on the main 4, happy, sad, scared, and angry. Being able to identify those emotions. What does your body feel like when you're happy? What does your body feel like when you're angry? And then as we go up into the grades, you can get more complicated with afraid, calm, embarrassed, confused, disappointed. Those more complex emotions that when they're in kindergarten, they won't be able to necessarily pinpoint. Anger is one that we see manifested a lot in school, and not being able to control that anger. So controlling anger, again, it's okay for them to experience anger, it's okay for them to be angry. However, the important thing is how he or she is able to deal with that anger. And so, when we go about this, we want to talk about what is the difference. Your body gives you cues that you're getting angry, when you're calm, you have happy thoughts, you're smiling, you're loose, relaxed muscles. Your stomach is all comfortable, easy to think, slow breathing, normal heart rate. You just feel calm and normal. But your body changes drastically when you're angry. Racing thoughts, you're gritting your teeth, you're clenching your muscles, tightening your fists, your stomach is in knots. Hard to think, I've talked to a lot of kids who are at the height of their anger and they cannot get out a sentence to save their life. It's just what happens when you're very angry. Your heart rate increases, all those things. So helping kids to understand the difference between what calm is and how you don't go from 0 to 60. Your body is telling you certain things along the way that, hey, I'm getting more and more angry and more frustrated. So we do have rules of anger, and we teach these here at school. It's okay to feel angry, but we're not going to hurt others, we're not going to hurt ourselves, we're not going to hurt property. And so just reiterating those things at home and at school, just so we're all on that same page. So there are different ways to help them cope with these strong emotions that they have. So we're going to talk about learning these coping skills. And life is difficult. They're going to have really great days. They're going to have really terrible days. They're going to go through seasons of life where everything's happy. They're going to go through seasons of life where everything really, really is hard. And so there's a ton of different coping skills you can use. Again, each child is different. What works for one might not work for the other. If you have multiple in your home, one that works for one is probably not going to work for another. So the first one is breathing. Again, when we work with kids who are really amped up or really angry, we try to get them to breathe because they're breathing really, really fast and they don't realize that they're making themselves more and more upset. So breathing, and I'm going to have my lovely assistants come and help me. So the first one is helping them to understand breathing from your gut. Now when I say that, the kids are like, what, your gut? Yes, your gut. So I'm going to have my two friends here lay down on the ground and get an animal. So this is something that you can do at home with your kids, after dinner or before dinner if you don't want to put someone on your stomach after dinner. But the point is to help them realize the difference between breathing up in your chest and breathing down in your gut. So what they're going to do is they're going to put their little animal friend on their stomach. And the point is when they breathe in through their nose, the animal is going to raise up. And then when they breathe out, the animal should go back down. So go ahead and breathe in through your nose. And out through your mouth. So you can get on the floor and do this with your kids. Help them to realize the difference between breathing up here and breathing up here. Because the ability to calm down comes from when you're breathing down here. Perfect.
Woo, got it.
So this and all the other breathing exercises are in your packet that we had you pick up. If you want to go to the next one. And there's a bunch of different ones. There's some that are really great for in class. This is one that is great that a kid can do in class when they're starting to feel agitated and upset. They know that they can just sit in the chair, they can do that tummy breathing, raise up their shoulders, and let it out. And that will really help them in that moment. That would be great for test taking or when they're having moments of anxiety. Breathing in through your nose, raising up your shoulders, and breathing out. And 9 times out of 10, when I do this with a kid, they say, "Wow, you know what? I do feel better." I'm like, I know. Back-to-back breathing. You know, if you're at home and you want to have a little partner, put your backs to each other, and you can feel each other breathing, which is pretty cool. Balloon breathing. Basically, they're acting like their hands are a balloon. It's getting bigger and bigger. Bubble breathing, pretty similar to balloon breathing. Bumblebee, if you want to go there and make a little humming noise. Elephant breathing, this is probably one of my favorites. The kids really love this one. So with this one, you start with the same tummy breathing, and this one's pretty fun because you get to flop over. So you just tell them to go ahead and flop over like this, and then as they breathe in deep from their tummy, they raise up their arms, and then as they breathe out, they flop back over. And for some kids, all you're going to have to do is tell them to tummy breathe, but I know that I work with a couple kiddos who they need to do some sort of action while they're breathing to help them calm down. So this is a really great one. They get the action and they get to act like an elephant. They love it. Take 5 breathing. This is another really great one that they can do in their seat while the teacher is teaching. They just breathe in, going up one side of the finger, and then breathe out, going down the next side. Breathe in and breathe out. Now the important thing about this one, when you teach this one at home, is they're not racing because they're going to hyperventilate. So you want to make sure they're nice and slow as they go around their fingers. So breathing is a coping skill. It definitely helps them calm down, but there are other ways that get their mind off of whatever it is that made them upset.
Mine usually take.
So coping skills are the strategies that we can use, or activities to change our feelings. We can't necessarily change the circumstances. There may be things that they can't fix and they can't change it, but again, how we deal with it and how we cope with it is the important thing. So coping skills are important because what we think affects how we behave and how we feel. And then how we feel affects how we think and how we behave, and then how we behave affects how we think and how we feel. So it's all interconnected. So we need some way to help kids manage all of that going on in their little heads. So this is a list of coping skills. There is a list in the resource packet that we gave you also. The ones that are bolded and italicized are the ones that the kids could do at school. You know, obviously some of them you're not going to be able to do, you know, if you got up and started doing yoga in the middle of class, the teacher might not be on board with that. But, you know, counting as high as you can in your head. If you just need to take that 30 seconds and count as high as you can and then get back to your assignment, by all means. Make a list of the things you're grateful for. You know, sometimes we get so focused on the negative that we forget that there are great things going on. You know, depending on your student can talk to their teacher about different ways that they cope. You know, maybe the teacher and the student have a signal, and that when that kid gives a signal, he gets to go for a walk, a 2-minute walk outside and come back in. And so, you know, while some of these are bolded for school, there are opportunities for the student and the teacher to have a conversation about what would work best for that kid. And the third thing is practice. We can teach them these coping skills all day long, but until they practice, especially in the heat of the moment, you know, these coping skills kind of stay ineffective. So practice is very important. And so at home, you guys have a great opportunity because you get to see them in that, and you know, you're a safe person to them. And so in that moment, you can tell them, let's remember a coping skill, which one you think is going to be a good option. So practicing at home and practicing at school, practicing, so that when the next big thing happens, we're able to handle it better. So in your packet, this is a great opportunity and great way for you to talk with your student about different coping strategies. So it says, it's kind of hard to see, but it says, a hard situation I might face is. So, I mean, your kid knows what things make them frustrated, what times of the day do they get more frustrated. Is it math class, is it English, or reading? And so talk through that with them. What times of the day do you get frustrated? And then the second part is a coping strategy that I can use. All right, so you get frustrated at this point. What are some ways that we can help you work through that when you're not at home? And so in your packet there's also this paper and then a whole other list. And in your packet there are coloring by coping skill. So it's another great way to talk with your kid while they're coloring their paper. You know, do you think that this coping skill would work, or different things like that. So more on the emotional way of helping your child get involved in school, but knowing that school and home are talking about the same thing is the best way to make sure that our students succeed.
You get to hear me talk again. we wanted you guys to know about all the emotional parts and all the parenting styles to kind of show you when we see kids and we see what's going on with them, those are kind of things that are going through our mind. What's going on, how can we help them, those kinds of things. But really, what parenting comes down to in terms of helping your child is just being active in their lives and talking to them and knowing what's going on. All these things that we've all brought up start with the conversations you have with them, which Amanda kind of talked about, the communication with them. So asking them about their day, about their friends, especially as they get older, asking them about their friends is really big, knowing who they're hanging out with. Asking them the high and lows of their day or week. Like Amanda was saying, just letting them know that you're listening. If they have the low parts of their day, knowing those coping skills and knowing how to deal with them and talking about, did you use stroller breathing when you're upset during your test, things like that. Included in your packet is this. It's a sheet that says My Week in Rear View. So this is a rear view mirror, which usually they look like this. They might be a little dated, but basically what you'll have the kids do,
Just a little.
yeah, just a little bit, is have them draw in here what their most memorable part of the week was. So a drawing of it. Some kids are way more visual than writing. So if they want to draw, have it draw up here, or they can write down here what their most memorable part was. And that's just an opportunity for you all as parents to sit down with your child and say, what was your favorite part? Because who knows what their favorite part was? Their favorite part could have been recess, or their favorite part could have been a new letter they learned. So going through with them, and it will start conversations of, why was this your favorite? Who did you do it with? Who was your favorite teacher? Things like that. And then very important is instilling confidence in your kids, highlighting their progress, letting them know what makes them great, and setting goals for them in the future, letting them kind of decide what they want to set goals for, and then giving them confidence to reach that. We're going to watch a video from a woman that's worked in an inner city school system for several years, and she talks in the perspective of, she's kind of talking to teachers, but we thought it was also important for parents to hear this. She focuses a lot on how she interacts with her students and how she makes them feel like they're the most important person in the room so that they can go on to reach their goals. So we'll watch this lovely lady.
I have spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. The kids should learn it. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class because I am the best teacher and you are the best students. They put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise, you just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so, I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know it. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
So,
Almost made me yell amen.
I know, we all wish that we had every single one of our teachers was just like her, but she was talking to teachers, and we think that those same points she was making can go to parents as well. We're all here for the same goal. Our goal is to have your students succeed and your students be the best that they can, and I think we all think that the first step to doing that is working as a team to try to promote their success. So this is our first step in getting parents involved, getting involved in the community with you guys to try to move forward. We will have more of these in the future, so we're hoping that parents will come and get involved, and we hope that it was interesting and you guys enjoyed it. And there might be more TED Talk videos, who knows? But yeah, so we all just want your kids to enjoy school, enjoy the environment they're in, and we need your help with that, and we're hoping